Yes, we are. I just need to come up. Yes, we. Cool. There we go. All right. And give me 1 second, folks. We'll get started very soon. All right. Okay, we're gonna leave it here for that. All right, so let's do this. Today's date is May the 9th, year 2020, and this is how the Frack We Got Here. I'm your host, the host, Will Buchanan. On how the Frack We Got Here, we do take the events of the week, whether they be politics or local U.S. news, and try to make sense out of it all. This is an adult podcast, which means that things of adult language may be used and things of graphic nature may be shown, so viewer discretion is advised. Aside from that, welcome. Um, no sound. There is no sound. You can't. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? How do I have no sound? You sure you can't hear me, honey? This would suck. How is there no sound? No sound. Are you sure? Are you positive? Can you be heard? Are you sure? Because I think it might be your end. No sound. Are you sure? Are no, you positive? I got sound, honey. I think you. I got sound. I'm checking the. Sure? Yeah. I got sound. I'm sorry, honey. You might want to check your speakers. Sorry about that, guys. I thought I didn't have sound. I just checked my repost, and I do. Let's go ahead and get into it, guys, about this week. So, with this week and everything else that's going on, well, everybody's happy about reopening, and well, there's mixed feelings about that.
Scenes like these in California, where stores defied stay-at-home orders, tonight more states eased restrictions to jumpstart local economies. Today, construction resumed in Michigan. Tomorrow in Iowa, dental services and tanning facilities can get back to business. Most of the country partially reopening by Sunday.
We got to get going, man. We got to open up some stuff.
The national shift towards a new normal comes as the death toll in New York tops 20,000. New data shows 66% of recent COVID-19 hospital admissions are from residents who say they had been staying home.
Maybe we were going to find a higher percentage of essential employees who were getting sick. That's not the case.
With new cases surging in states like Minnesota, Nebraska, Iowa, and Wisconsin, health experts say expect a spike in COVID cases as states loosen restrictions.
If it really picks up, it's very hard to stop again.
In California, where statewide hospitalizations are flat, the number of positive cases here in Los Angeles is up, and the state lockdown is far from over.
As frustration mounts over restrictions, in Texas, the Supreme Court ordered the release of a salon owner who was jailed after refusing to close her doors. In Oklahoma, 2 McDonald's employees were shot after they told a customer to leave the closed dining area.
You are in violation of my constitutional rights.
And in Miami Beach, this confrontation after a man was denied entry to a grocery store for not wearing a mask. Tonight, a nation angry and anxious with lives and livelihoods both on the line. Miguel Almaguer, NBC News.
So with that being said, yes, it seems that America is anxious to reopen. And by America, I mean America. Not America, America. So, look, there's no other way around it. I know a lot of us have cabin fever. I know a lot of us want to get back to what we used to do and what we love to do. And some of us even want to go back to work. The thing about this is we are still in the middle of what the CDC calls the second wave. And you've heard me say second wave. You've heard me say second wave infections a lot on previous podcasts, and this is what's actually going to happen. The CDC at this point has said that no city is ready to reopen and resume normal activities, just because the COVID-19 cases are spiking. We've seen that with other people who have opened cities or large gatherings, like in Chicago or in Florida or in Texas or in California, that the COVID-19 cases increased. Even in my home state of Tennessee, where folks were so anxious about May 8th, which is actually being touted as where some of the restrictions will be released on May the 8th, where so May the 8th, which would have been yesterday. So even then, we had a spike of COVID-19 cases in one day. So again, this goes back to this whole thing about uh, is it really a good idea right now to basically ease restrictions? I don't think so. And even more so, you should be very dismayed about what Dorito said when that was actually brought up to him in this little bit of a short clip that they had when he did a special report ABC News.
Now reporting, David Muir.
Good afternoon. I'm David Muir in Phoenix, Arizona, and we're interrupting regularly scheduled programming to bring you breaking news at this hour. President Trump is here in Arizona on his first trip outside Washington in nearly 2 months, touring a Honeywell factory that is now producing N95 face masks as he urges the country to try to get back to normal, some sort of normal. He wants this country to start phasing in the reopening, the regions that he believes are ready to do this. But he knows that even as he signals with his own trip that the country can do this, that it comes amid a raging debate over whether or not this is happening too quickly and whether or not lives are actually being put at risk. Some of these states still have not reached their plateau, and I did ask the president whether or not these states have all met the guidelines that the president himself put out there. And one of the things I talked to the president about were the comments from Dr. Anthony Fauci in the last 24 hours, his very cautious words about moving forward too quickly in reopening the country. Here's the exchange just moments ago. I want to ask you about what Dr. Fauci said last night about the reopening of the country. He said it's the balance of something that's a very difficult choice. How many deaths and how much suffering are you willing to accept to get back where you want to be? Do you see it that way? Do you believe that's the reality we're facing, that lives will be lost to reopen the country?
It's possible there will be some, because you won't be locked into an apartment or a house or whatever it is. But at the same time, we're going to practice social distancing. We're going to be washing hands. We're going to be doing a lot of the things that we've learned to do over the last period of time. And we have to get our country back. You know, people are dying the other way, too. When you look at what's happened with drugs, it goes up. When you look at suicides, I mean, take a look at what's going on. People are losing their jobs. We have to bring it back, and that's what we're doing.
The president just moments ago on his efforts to try to start reopening this country, and it comes amid real debate. Governor Andrew Cuomo of New York just today saying this comes down to human life and how valuable that life is in these states deciding when and how to reopen. I do want to get to our chief White House correspondent, Jonathan Karl, because, John, that was striking, an acknowledgement from the president that there could be lives here at risk.
And the president has said, David, that this decision on whether or not to reopen and how to reopen would be the most difficult decision of his presidency. But at the same time, he has largely turned that decision over to the governors, made it clear that the governors will ultimately be the ones to make decisions about whether or not and how to reopen their states. The president himself seems eager to move beyond this moment in an extraordinary development today, David. We have learned, the vice president has confirmed that the White House plans to disband the coronavirus task force, the White House task force on this issue, by the end of this month. An extraordinary development considering that we are just now seeing peak levels of infection and of deaths.
Kind of says a lot, doesn't it? That, Dorito is going to sit there and say, yes, it is possible that there may be some deaths if we move forward with this. And it doesn't amaze me. It doesn't amaze me at all because, again, Dorito thinks that the whole idea of solving all this is to literally and figuratively turn around and sit there and say, it's a bad idea, which he should be saying. What do you say, John? Are you going to show the videos of all the doctors saying they're being pressured to claim deaths from the virus even when it's not the cause of death? I did see a video, and right now it's still a whole bunch of personal ones. Until, like I said, I was actually debating on showing that video, but the problem was they keep on saying that they're being pressured, but they don't say by who. And at the same time, a lot of these doctors who put out these videos about the CDC, about the COVID virus, and their personal beliefs, all of them have been literally debugged by the greater medical community. So no, I'm not going to show those just because it's really more of a doctor's opinion versus the overall consensus of all the medical community. So no, John, I'm not going to show that, man. But anyway, the whole idea of this whole thing about COVID-19 is so misunderstood. That's why I keep harping at the entire time. When it actually does come to this, is that number one, the virus itself is probably it has a transmission vector that hasn't been seen since the Spanish flu. Number two, we don't understand a lot about it, which basically tells me that's a new strain. And number three, it just shows how it just really shows as a country how really unstable we are when it comes to pandemics when you take away so many safeguards that used to be put in place. I mean, keep in mind, Trump did disband the multiple pandemic offices that President Obama put in just to attack this sort of thing. And of course, he also decided to now not him, but silent Vice President Mike Pence decided that now he's going to disband the coronavirus task force like it's mission accomplished. And that should be freaking scary, considering the fact that the COVID-19 cases are still high across the board. Even more so, which is still weird, that Dr. Anthony Fauci, the guy who is literally the go-to guy for infectious diseases in the United States, is being silenced. And I want to know why, even though he's being allowed to talk to some people and some not. But this is the story right here.
NBC's Monica Alba standing by at the White House for us. A good Saturday to you, Monica. So first up, why is the White House blocking Fauci's testimony next week?
Good morning, Alex, or I should say good afternoon. And we actually just heard that flyover here at the White House, just so you have an idea of what might be rumbling behind me as I bring you the latest here. Dr. Fauci was set to appear next week at a House panel committee, but the White House is blocking him from that. They say, in their words, because it would be counterproductive to have somebody like Dr. Fauci, who's as intimately involved in the coronavirus pandemic response, taking time away from that to appear before a committee. And of course, that House committee he was scheduled to be at would be led by Democrats. But what's notable here is that they are saying he will be allowed to appear here the week of May 12th at a Senate hearing that would be led by Republicans. And the White House is saying that one is okay for him to appear at. So it appears to be a little bit political here. But this comes over the last few weeks as we've seen a diminished presence from what we came to know from Dr. Fauci, which was a near daily appearance in those coronavirus task force member briefings that we saw so many of here in the last couple of months. As those started to fade away and the White House has pivoted to a new communication strategy, you've seen Dr. Fauci appear sometimes in the Oval Office with the president. He certainly continues to do media interviews, but we aren't seeing him take those questions as often from reporters anymore. So this is just the latest example of the White House trying to control his public image, at least when it comes to when he is.
Okay, well, first of all, NBC really doesn't like me today. Second, yes, Dr. Anthony Fauci is literally, like, you guys all saw the video just there. He's blocked from going to the House, but he's allowed to go to the Senate. Does anybody want to field goal the reason why? I would only think that, I think that for the simple fact of the matter that the White House wants to control the level of information that's being put out there. I mean, there's no ifs, ands, or buts on how to say that, because how are you going to let the head guy of infectious diseases that we follow in the U.S. only speak to a Republican-controlled, you're going to let them speak to the Republicanly controlled Senate, but not the Democratically controlled House? And the excuse you give is that we don't want to take him away from his important work. Right. And I'm sorry. When I see bullshit, I gotta call it out. This is again Dorito and Pence and his entire administration wanting to control the narrative that they pretty much botched this entire handling of the COVID-19 case. Even when Dr. Anthony Fauci sat there and literally sat there and said that hydrochloroquine, which was a drug, a dangerous drug, that Dorito was touting that it works, and he was saying no, there is no information that says that hydrochloroquine is an effective vaccine or cure for COVID-19. And again, he himself has literally vocally opposed Trump as far as saying in these things, which makes me think that, of course, if you go against the king, well, the would-be king, he's gonna put you in the doghouse, or he'll only allow you to speak to people that he would rather have you speak to versus the public. That's what's so fucked up about this entire situation. That if anybody we should be listening to, it's doctors. If doctors sit there and say, stay home, take care of yourself, get rest, all the above, then you should. We shouldn't be listening to the fact that, well, we need businesses to open. Well, we need to figure out business to open. People want to work and this, that, and the other. What we need to figure out is, okay, if we can't open businesses, then we need to figure out how to help people. Here's the very scary thing that nobody's saying. You're telling me that America itself won't help its people unless it's to help them get back to work. Capitalism at its finest. Because America can't allow its workers to rest and actually get healthy. Oh no. We need you. We need you back at working. We need you cranking out things. We need you making money for us. That alone should tell you how much of a capitalist society that we have, that instead of trying to help people actually through these tough times where they can't work, or they can't make money, or they worry about rent, or they worry about utilities, you'd rather see how quickly you can get them back to work versus basically helping them the same way that the same way that Congress helped Wall Street, by giving them a $1.5 trillion gift. No strings attached. But, they figure us a single $1,200 stimulus check will be fine. Yeah, that alone should tell you exactly the level of people we are dealing with. But before I do get into the jobs report that I usually have here, this story was actually brought to me by somebody else, that the Paycheck Protection Program, which again is like the weirdest alliteration I've ever seen. Well, I didn't know this, and this is a whole other reason why I'm going to go into a whole other subject, was that more than 12,000 Catholic churches in the U.S. applied for this loan, and 9,000 got them. Let me explain this. 12,000 Catholic churches applied for a loan, and out of the 12,000, 9,000 got them. More than 80% of those that applied got the loans. How can I put this in so many ways? They're churches. And at the same time, it's amazing to me how they turn around to there and say, well, churches are not a business, so they don't deserve to be taxed. Yet, here you are, 9,000 churches just applied for a business loan. I think it's about time to tax the churches, personally. I think it's time to go after the $1 billion, yes, $1 billion with a B. I think it's finally time for Uncle Sam to go knocking on that door. Because it's amazing to me that not only Catholic churches, mind you, Protestant churches, Baptist churches, because they were doing a study on this as I was reading over the article, is just that it's not just them, but religious houses across the country are applying for these loans. Because, number one, and I have to give them because they're smart, that the wording on the wording on this program, meaning about a small business, is so wildly loose that honestly churches, corporations, and everybody else can apply for this if they can prove they have the right paperwork. So again, the program itself was really trash from Jump Street. But again, it's shocking to see churches who swear up and down they're not businesses actually apply for business loans. In my opinion, like George Carlin said, if you want your opinion to be heard in politics, you gotta pay the price of admission just like everybody else. And that includes churches. But, hey, I'll tell you one thing. The preachers always want to say, bitch better have my money on Sunday. But aside from that guy, like I said, getting back to the job report, unfortunately, it just seems to be getting worse.
Worst since the Great Depression. The numbers tell the story. The coronavirus lockdown has wiped out jobs for millions of Americans at record speed. 20.5 million jobs lost in the month of April, the worst single month in history, and 10 times worse than the previous record set in 1945 when Japan surrendered and America's wartime industrial machine wound down. The unemployment rate spiking to 14.7%, powering past the high watermark of the Great Recession at 10%, the horrible downturn in the Reagan years, 10.8% in 1982, worse than anything we have seen since the Great Depression. In 1939, it averaged 17.2% for the year, the single worst year, 1933, near 25%. The speed of the decline is breathtaking. March and April, 21 million jobs gone. It took far longer during the Great Recession to wipe out just 8.7 million jobs. It is 10 years of job market gains gone and no playbook for the way back. The U.S. job market on ice on purpose to fight the coronavirus.
And that was your historical lesson. Unfortunately, it's true. We are now at 14.7, and as the news reports, that is the highest unemployment rate we had since the Great Depression. And also another tidbit that she pointed out is, keep in mind, we had 10 years of job growth, by the previous black guy who was in office. And you have to think about that. 10 years of job growth got wiped out in less than 5 months. Number one, that is amazing. Number two, that just tells you how shaky we are in our economy. Our economy isn't the greatest economy. When, let's be honest, if you miss 1 or 2 paychecks and that wrecks everything, then the economy is shit. Because apparently if we have rich people, that means we're doing well. But I've always said this about the economy. The economy should not be actually looked at by how many rich people you have, by how many poor people you have, and how the less fortunate are actually being treated. And let's be honest, I don't think you noticed, but there are fewer rich people and there's a lot more poor people. But yet at the same time, they try to sit there and tell us that everything is fine. Again, it's not when you're 1 or 2 paychecks away from literally being out in the street. Even more so that that Americans are still trying to struggle with jobs at this moment.
Of how fast it's fallen. In February, the unemployment rate was at 3.5%. That's a 50-year low. Tomorrow's report could put it anywhere from 15 to 20%. CBS's Mark Strassman reports tonight from Atlanta.
Out of work, out of food. In Massachusetts, the National Guard handed out 8,600 gallons of milk. 1 in 5 households report they don't have enough to eat. Many of them also starve for hope.
It's been hectic. My bills, I'm behind on my bills, my rent, my lights.
LaBria Chandler hasn't hit bottom, but she can see it in Athens, Georgia.
Out here alone, I have nothing. Nothing but myself and my kids.
The single mother of 3 lost her job as a line cook. Chandler is 2 months behind in rent, and they've been homeless before.
I need my place. I need a roof over my head.
For millions, that roof has fallen in, especially among minority families. A recent study shows 61% of Hispanic households have lost a job or income, 44% of black households, 38% of white.
Mashed potatoes and gravy.
In Tucker, Georgia, this drive-through line keeps Matthew's Cafeteria in business.
65 years. People have been fired. Never laid a person off here. We didn't even know how to do it.
Michael Green had to lay off 24 employees. He rehired them with his PPP loan.
Do you have any confidence in where you're going to be in 3 to 6 months?
For the first time ever, no. I just don't know.
Marquee companies also faced that uncertainty. Neiman Marcus filed for bankruptcy today. MGM Resorts notified 63,000 employees their furloughs could become layoffs. Chandler had to pawn her daughter Anea's laptop to feed the family.
She asks me questions that sometimes I don't want to give her the answer to because I don't want to hurt her. I want her to know that mommy's trying. I'm trying. It's just hard.
Like this restaurant behind me, some major chains are reopening, including Starbucks, Nordstrom's, and Macy's. But it could be months before rehired workers reverse the historic downturn in America's unemployment.
And that's true. I mean, unfortunately, with cases, stories like that are popping up across the U.S. That, you know, the relief that a lot of people need to get aren't getting. Even so, with the rent strike and everything that's going on, and yes, yes, you heard me right. There are a lot of people right now, or simply not paying their rent just because, well, they can't afford to. In the same sense of, you know, skipping payments on everything else, car payments, insurance, things of that nature, just because the simple point is America can't work. But that goes back to my previous point when I sat there and said it is amazing to me that when it comes to American citizens and the fact that we need assistance, they would rather put us to work versus actually giving us help the same way they would give industries help. For example, like I said before, now, you know, Bernie Sanders first said a long time ago when the COVID-19 finally hit and that jobs would be affected, he sat there and said, well, we need to go ahead and put a national moratorium on all rent and utility payments, and we need to figure out, and we need to start paying every American $2,000 a month and every couple $4,000 a month with $1,000 per child just until this COVID-19 case is over. Of course, because everybody heard from Bernie Sanders, they all thought socialism, we're giving out free money. At the same time, it's like, well, you gave out free money to the banks, the airlines, and the auto. You gave it to the banks, airlines, auto industry, and oh yeah, anytime Wall Street says they're going to crash. But at the same time, when it comes to people, where we can literally turn around and sit there and say, hey, the same budget that we give the Pentagon is the same budget that we can actually use to help our own citizens. But again, it feels like you're not getting that help. I mean, think about this for a second. Wall Street literally got a bill to themselves. They had to argue and put other things in the bills, other things in that stupid economy impact payment bill, in order for us to get taken care of as far as American citizens go. That alone should tell you a lot about where we are on the actual food chain, if you think about it. At the same time, it doesn't make any sense that, yes, we could turn around and actually pay, we actually turn around and actually help our citizens, but for some odd reason, they would rather actually see us go back to work. Nothing wrong with working, but I'd rather work where it's safe. I'd rather work when the COVID-19 cases are down. I'd rather work when I can literally turn around and sit there and say, we can actually go to work and be fine versus, you know, given a choice. Because let's be honest, some people are being forced, especially essential workers. There are choices being made. They may not say it because they don't want to be sued for it, but there are choices that can be made, and I can't blame anybody for wanting to take their health in the case. But again, I shouldn't be surprised just because, just because the fact of the matter is, America isn't employee friendly. They are profit sharing. But anyway. But feel free to let me know if you disagree in the comments or just other things you want to point out. Feel free to comment there. The next story has been gaining traction. I actually did report about this story about a few podcasts back about the story of Ahmaud Arbery. Where if you haven't noticed about him, he was a young black man in Georgia that was hunted and gunned down. Keep in mind what I sat there and said. I'm saying something different than what some news channels will say. I am saying he was hunted, he was tracked, and he was gunned down, and unfortunately he was killed by two people who wanted to play cops. But there is some news out of all this because of everybody sharing, and then of course the video that came out. This little tidbit of news came out yesterday.
Tonight in that case igniting national outrage, a white father and son now charged with murder, more than 2 months after the deadly shooting of an unarmed black jogger in Georgia. Here's Steve Osunsami again tonight.
This is the moment that many felt was months overdue. Within 36 hours of taking over this case, state investigators arrested Gregory and Travis McMichael, accusing them of aggravated assault and the murder of this young man, 25-year-old Ahmaud Arbery, seen here in February, jogging towards his death on a street in South Georgia.
I'm very comfortable in telling you that there's more than sufficient probable cause in this case for felony murder.
The father and son made their first court appearance today. As a former law enforcement officer, Gregory McMichael is well known in the local courts, which led to two prosecutors here removing themselves from the investigation.
You're charged with part of the crime of felony murder.
Police say the McMichaels are the men with guns in the shocking cell phone recording. They told police that Arbery looked like this man seen in these surveillance images from sometime before the shooting, given to ABC News by a local lawyer. He says the person here is suspected of breaking into homes in this mostly white suburban neighborhood of Satilla Shores. But according to a local newspaper, the only report of any burglary since January was a gun stolen from a pickup truck outside the home of one of the McMichaels.
I'm out here at Satilla Shores. There's a black male running down the street.
The video shows them killing Arbery in the street, but people who back the McMichaels say it was Arbery who started fighting. The outrage over it all is pouring onto the streets. Arbery would have turned 26 years old today. State authorities tonight say that there could be more arrests and that they're talking with everyone, including the person who recorded the video. His lawyer says that his client is cooperating with investigators. David?
All right, I know you're going to stay on this, Steve.
Okay, so here's some things to take away from that. Yes, we've been down this track road before. Botham Jean, we've been down this road before. With many other lost black men. It's just that I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm happy. I am a little bit happy that the father and son are being charged with murder, as they should be, premeditated murder actually. And even more so that there was an update to this story to where the person who actually did record the video is now being charged with an accessory to murder. Just because they had to ask this question of why in the world were you recording this and you were literally watching all this? It's one of those things to where how in the world, what other reason would you have had? That's the thing about it. What other reason would you have had if to record this and not help? So again, he's actually being brought up on charges of accessory to murder, which again I'm not mad about, because if that tells you anything, guys, this was a hunt. I mean, this young man was haunted. I mean, hunted, not haunted, hunted. I hope he haunts them as a ghost, if you believe in that sort of thing. But this just goes to show you, for the simple fact of the matter is just that it's one of those, to me, it's like it could have been me. It's like, I mean, I could be anywhere, and yet somebody with a gun thinks I'm dangerous and decides to pursue me like with the police, and that they can gun me down. I can't help but sit there and think that it could have been me. Any black man would be able to think about that. But again, this goes back to the whole thing I said with this case ongoing. Personally, I hope they get life. I mean, that would be me, because again, what other reason did they have except the simple fact of the matter is that they went out there, they hunted somebody down, and decided to go ahead and basically be judge, jury, and executioner because they believe they could. I mean, if I'm wrong, please tell me so, because I can't help. I don't feel any sympathy for them. I hope the book gets thrown at them. I hope that we do get more justice with Arbery's case than we do with Botham Jean's case, because I'm not gonna lie, Amber Geiger got off very fucking easy. 10 years. That alone should tell you something. But again, moving forward, guys, there is actually a corona. There actually is a corona. I was supposed to say corona. There is a coronavirus trial that's out there, and as I read this story, the more it just got interesting. So here's what they're actually doing, because apparently this is a new way of testing a vaccine.
Pathogen. Researchers at NYU have now started clinical trials on a never-before-tried genetic vaccine candidate developed by Pfizer along with a German partner. Rather than trying to manipulate the live virus itself, this vaccine attempts to reprogram the virus's genetic code. Melissa Hankkinen, whose husband is a doctor at NYU, is among the first 12 healthy Americans to receive the injection.
So many people are being affected by this pandemic, and I figured it was would be a great thing to do to help during an unprecedented time.
Here's what makes this unique. The vaccine carries the genetic code known as messenger RNA that instructs the cells to make the proteins associated with the coronavirus, but without making someone sick. The hope is that the immune system then kicks in to create the antibodies to fight off COVID-19. And Pfizer has 4 genetic vaccine candidates. Dr. Mark Mulligan is running the NYU trial.
It really is a natural thing because this messenger RNA is something the body produces on its own normally. So it's kind of a new thing, but it's really not anything that's too different than what the body does for itself.
Because it's natural, it's also believed to be safe. But experts point out it's still experimental and vaccines normally take years to develop.
We don't yet have a licensed vaccine for RNA or DNA vaccines because in the past they've worked very well in laboratory animals, but those immune responses have not translated into good human immune responses.
Worldwide, there are now roughly 100 vaccine candidates under review. Researchers at Pfizer believe this genetic code vaccine could be available as soon as September.
It is probably the fastest way of having a vaccine available to stem this pandemic.
Are you more optimistic about this type of vaccine compared to a typical vaccine that we've seen in the past?
I am optimistic, but the data will speak for themselves, Tom. This is the nice thing about science. You don't have to have faith or belief. The answer will come from the investigations that we do.
Melissa Honkanen, a yoga instructor, went home hours after receiving the first shot on Monday. How are you feeling?
I feel fine. My arm's just a little sore. I don't have any headaches. I feel like myself.
All right, Tom joins me now. Tom, Pfizer's not the only company working on a vaccine like this, right?
No, that's right. Moderna, Inovio, and CanSino are also involved in this kind of research. Importantly, never before has a genetically altered vaccine made its way to market. This is cutting-edge stuff. But Pfizer believes it could have a vaccine within 4 months.
Okay, so what do we take from that? There are plenty of vaccines that are out there that still be under investigation. Does this give us hope? Absolutely. But like doctors say, and I keep on stressing this very heavily, when it comes to researchers and doctors, listen to them, because they're, like I said before, it could be years before we see an actual working vaccine. But it's nice to know that some ground is being gained. The longer we study the virus, the longer we actually test against the virus, the more options that become available to fight the virus. So I just want to actually share that story just because the fact of the matter is that does give a little bit of hope to see that, hey, there is some headway being made as long as we let the doctors do their jobs. Hey, that's what you say. From what I read, a lot of the cases like that are deaths that are a result from complications directly caused by COVID-19. A good comparison would be like people dying from the flu more often than not dying from pneumonia that was brought on by the flu rather than the flu itself. Since the pneumonia was the cause by the flu, the cause of death is still claimed to be the flu. Oh, well, they said the cause of death. Oh, you're talking about what John was saying. I get where you're going with Alex. But again, it's one of those things, like I said before, with COVID-19, the fact that it's basically a new strain, it's going to take a lot more information and a lot more time to look into it than anything else. But it's just good to see that some headway is being made. But again, there's not promises of a cure. So please don't go out there and start taking hydrochloroquine and bleach just because Doritos said to, and the fact that he might have stock in it. But also some other shocking news that happened over this week was Michael Flynn, which again was Doritos' first national security advisor. Well, the case against him has been dropped by the Department of Justice. And we all know that the president's personal lawyer, William Barr, is the head of the Department of Justice. What's even more shocking is what he said in his interview post Michael Flynn's case being dropped.
Investigation. Today, the Attorney General told federal prosecutors to drop their case against Michael Flynn, President Trump's first national security advisor. Flynn had pleaded guilty to lying to the FBI and was fired by the president. But after at first cooperating with the Mueller investigation, Flynn changed his tune, and his lawyers, along with conservative media, lobbied for the case to be dropped. Well, tonight, in a CBS News exclusive, Attorney General William Barr explains his decision to our Catherine Herridge.
In our exclusive interview this afternoon inside the Department of Justice, the Attorney General said he was obligated to drop the charges against the president's former national security advisor.
Our duty, we think, is to dismiss the case.
It's a stunning turn of events for Flynn, who in December 2017 pleaded guilty to lying to the FBI about his discussions with the Russian ambassador after the presidential election. Flynn was ultimately fired by the president about 3 weeks into the job, having also lied to the vice president about his contacts with the Russians.
Flynn lied, and it's like they ruined his life. It's very unfair.
But the department's filing says the FBI's interview with Flynn was unjustified and done without any legitimate basis.
A crime cannot be established here. They did not have a basis for a counterintelligence investigation against Flynn at that stage.
Does the fact remain that he lied?
Well, you know, people sometimes plead to things that turn out not to be crimes.
What should Americans take away from your actions in the Flynn case today?
I want to make sure that we restore confidence in the system. There's only one standard of justice.
President Trump, who has long claimed that Flynn was railroaded, called him a hero.
He was an innocent man.
Are you doing the president's bidding?
No, I'm doing the law's bidding.
You know you're going to take a lot of incoming, as they say in the military, for this decision.
I'm prepared for that. But I also think it's sad that nowadays these partisan feelings are so strong that people have lost any sense of justice.
Flynn welcomed the news with a tweet of his grandson. And former FBI Director Jim Comey, who started the investigation into the president, voiced his displeasure on Twitter, saying the department had lost its way. When history looks back on this decision, how do you think it will be written?
Well, history's written by the winner, so it largely depends on who's writing the history.
Flynn's fate rests with a federal judge here in Washington. He can dismiss the case, or according to one legal expert, he could call for a hearing with all of the party given the extraordinary circumstances. Tonight, the Attorney General emphasized to CBS News that they continue to investigate other aspects of the FBI Russia probe.
So, if you're like me and you're literally shaking your head and going, what the fuck? Again, we should be surprised that William Barr, again, is the president's personal attorney. He can say Attorney General what he wants to, but this is the bidding of Dorito. Dorito wants to basically get all his friends out. You see Roger Stone is up next. But Michael Flynn, it is amazing to me that he sits there and says the FBI had no legitimate basis to basically charge Flynn. Keep in mind that it was basically Mueller's investigation that pulled that basically when Robert Mueller was investigating, did find out that Michael Flynn was a compromised individual who may have lied to the FBI. And come to find out that's true. So apparently, forgive me for our understanding, guys, for all those that, you know, are more well versed in laws than I am, but isn't lying to a federal officer isn't lying to an officer a crime? I'm almost certain it is. And even more so, that he did lie about being compromised by Russia, about having contact with Russian officials and diplomats. And it's amazing to me that, okay, not only did you lie, but you are compromised. And yet, because of the fact of the matter is, he did have a deal with Mueller. He was cooperating in the investigation. And the only reason that this was turned down was because he was looking at jail time. And let's be honest, that is the only reason why he turned around from being cooperative to sitting there saying, oh no, because they recommended jail time, as they should. But because the fact of the matter is, as long as William Barr is the head of justice, we're unfortunately going to be seeing this kind of mess, because I fear, my very big fear, is that until Dorito is out of office, until his administration has been removed, none of them will actually see jail. I fear that. I fear that very much. Just because the simple fact of the matter is, if William Barr can turn around and reverse a decision and sit there and say, I want the case to be dropped, who's not to say he won't do that for everybody else? I wouldn't be surprised if he goes after everybody else that's been sentenced and tries to sit there and say, you know what, I'm going to reverse this because I didn't like it. And then give some bullshit excuse. Because the simple fact of the matter, the reporter sat there and asked him, do you think he lied? Well, yes, motherfucker, you know he lied. But again, you're doing the president's bidding. So when the president snaps his fingers, you're supposed to roll over and play dead. But then again, that's kind of how you got your job, though, right? Also, the last story that I do have before we get to our good news segments is basically about the meat plants. Now, a lot of you are probably went to McDonald's or Wendy's like I did the other night and noticed that the menu was very short-sighted, only because there is, unfortunately, a shutdown in 22 of the major meat processing plants we have out there. And because of that, stores and fast food and other areas that do depend on these meat companies are starting to roll back on their menus. However, don't worry, kids. Dorito has a plan, and this is basically it.
Plants are ramping up production again. Pork plants in Iowa, South Dakota, and Minnesota are back online despite workers' safety concerns and confusion over federal guidelines. CBS's Dean Reynolds has been following the derailment of the food supply chain, and tonight he takes us inside a plant linked to more than 1,000 cases of coronavirus.
Tyson Foods' biggest pork plant is reopening in Waterloo, Iowa, but its workers are wary.
Everybody's scared. Everybody. I don't know, because I need money.
The company released a video today of what they saw inside: partitioned stations, spaced seating, and daily temperature checks. But while some companies saw the CDC plant safety guidelines as a roadmap to follow, others noted they were merely recommendations. This South Dakota Smithfield plant, where 800 workers were infected, is also operating, but testing is voluntary. However confusing, the effects of the slowdown in meat production are clear. This meat aisle went from simply fresh to simply empty. And now some officials seem to be blaming the workers, not the plants. Congresswoman Ann Custer says Health and Human Services Secretary Alex Azar told her and other lawmakers it's the workers' home and social lives that are spreading the virus.
This is really hard for us.
It hurts to hear that, says San Twin, whose mother, a worker at a now operating JBS meatpacking plant in Colorado, caught the virus in March and has been on a ventilator for weeks. No one from JBS has reached out.
Does that make you angry?
Yeah, and it's really sad too, because my mom, she's a really hard worker.
Doctors say it's unlikely she will ever see her granddaughter. Dean Reynolds, CBS News, Chicago.
And that alone tells you a lot. That, well, first off, I wasn't expecting really a corporation to go into it. But Dorito, using his Defense Powers Act, which basically allows him to basically tell some companies that have a contract to either continue working or producing things that actually help the economy. You know, the thing that Trump could have used to actually have life-saving personal equipment protection, you know, PPE. He could have had that stuff actually created. Instead, he decides to use his power to basically force meat markets to still continue. Now, that alone should tell you how fucked up that is, especially in the same sense that a lot of these corporations are not doing enough to protect their workers. I myself know one company that can sit there and say that right now. But it is amazing to me that, again, these meat market companies are, like I said, they're being deemed essential, but not doing more than enough to protect their workers because they're taking more suggestions and not actual law. Which I can't blame workers for not wanting to go back to work these places because, number one, it is completely and utterly unsafe. Number two, they might have families that they might be in fear of bringing the virus back to. And number three, we've seen the devastation of what happens with COVID-19. So, not surprised with the simple fact of the matter is just that a lot of people are now being forced on a decision that they don't really have a choice in. But again, with that being said, guys, before we do get to our feel-good news segment, there is some news that just came out today, and it's some sad news that unfortunately we've lost an icon on Little Richard.
The music industry lost a giant today. The founding father of rock and roll, Little Richard, has passed away at the age of 87. Little Richard was a pioneer in rock music, known for his bold onstage persona and for his hit songs Long Tall Sally, Good Golly Miss Molly, and Send Me Some Lovin' in the 1950s. In 1986, he was one of the 10 first inductees into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and he was awarded the Lifetime Achievement Award at the Grammys in 1993. Little Richard's career has had a remarkable impact on the music industry. His style and his artistry have influenced countless musicians, and his music has been covered by the likes of the Beatles, the Everly Brothers, and Elvis Costello. Our deepest condolences go out to his loved ones.
Yes, unfortunately, Little Richard has passed today, and that is a lot, especially from a guy who literally gave us such style as wop bop a loo bop a la bam boom. I'm gonna find a way to use that today. But again, peace and condolences to his family, because like I said, unless you were born after the year 1994, you're not gonna know who Little Richard was. But anybody else around my age and back definitely knows who Little Richard is. But again, that's peace and condolences to his family on that note. Aside from that, guys, let's go ahead and get into our feel good news segment. Look, there's a lot that we talk about here on How the Frack We Got Here, a lot of doom and gloom and things of that nature. But because this is a weekend podcast, it's Saturday, depending if you're in the north, you probably freeze your ass off. If you're in the south, you don't know what day's coming next. But we are doing our best we can in this COVID-19 to do our best to relax and try to enjoy life and get outside safely and things of that nature. So we want to leave things out on a good note, on a high note, something that just makes you feel good about oneself. And I'm going to be honest, the stories that I have here, two of them, this kind of goes back to educators. And if you know me, I've said before, educators hold a special place in my heart. Teachers and educators alone, because a lot of what they did for me basically made me into the person I am today. So I like to see, of course, with high school graduating seniors and graduates in colleges, such as like myself, we're all waiting to, get our degrees and walk across the aisle, so to speak. But unfortunately, because of COVID-19 and it actually prevents large crowds, a lot of seniors are not getting the ability to graduate. So, due to some very dedicated educators, high school staff visiting homes of all of its seniors. So in some cases, like this one right here, this one school decided to, its entire administration visited all 383 graduating seniors to deliver their signs and their diplomas. 383 people? And I'm going to be honest with you on that one. Wow. That is some dedication to me, to where if you're a school official or a teacher or a principal or a vice principal, that you all guys sit there and said, hey, we're going to go visit all of our seniors. And if you have a large senior class like that, because that's how my senior class was. My senior class was almost, let's see, back in 2001. I think my senior class was maybe 500 plus, which thank God we all were able to, that was before COVID-19, because I can't imagine my old high school administration group going out to everybody and congratulating them on graduating high school. But it is cool to see them actually doing this, because like I said, graduating high school is an actual great accomplishment. And honestly, it should be recognized and graduated, and I'm all for that. Even more so where, like I said, with these administration people going out and visit their homes, another principal by himself, 220 graduates. This one principal in North Carolina decided that, you know what, I'm going to let them all know how I feel and how I'm happy for them and everything else. This guy turns around and goes to 220 of his students' homes to personally congratulate them for graduating high school. 220, traveling almost 800 miles. I don't know about you, but if he got an Uber, that man made his money that day, because wow. But again, I love the fact that, for the simple fact of the matter, that they take it out of their time to turn around and sit there and say, you know what, we are going to make sure that you are recognized and that you are appreciated, and that we're just going to go from there on that. So again, I love stories like that, because again, that just tells you how important educators are. And if you haven't noticed in this day and age how fucking important education really is, and that the quality of education should be raised up in our society. And let's be honest, you should be paying teachers more. I will never stop saying that. Aside from that, there's another story that I've realized that I'm going to hold off on what I want to say about this story. I'm just going to play this video first, and I'm going to say what I want to say.
Bridget Robinson cares for all of her patients with 2 gentle hands and 1 giant heart.
I love taking care of people.
But this longtime nursing assistant was the one who needed care after testing positive for COVID-19 last month.
I just cannot remember anything.
Struggling to breathe, Bridget was intubated and spent weeks on a ventilator.
It definitely was scary and heartbreaking, especially the fact that she's my best friend.
Caring runs in the family. Her daughter Sylvia is a nurse at Ochsner North Shore, a hospital outside of New Orleans.
She was working the day her mom had to go to the ICU.
The team there came together supporting one of their own as Bridget struggled to stay alive and then incredibly recovered.
The only thing I remember is waking up, hearing my grandson on Facebook telling me that he need me. Grandma, don't leave me. I love you. I need you. I'm about to cry.
The doctors and nurses got to know and love Bridget. They were overjoyed when she finally headed home. And that's when we decided it was time for a really special thank you surprise.
It's good to see you. I'm looking at you, and you've spent your whole life helping people.
Yes.
Helping people heal.
Yes.
And then you found yourself in need. Tell me about what that was like to be on the other end.
It was hard to accept, waking up to all of that. It was really hard.
You have strength that I can see and feel.
All I could think about is my grandson. And he was like, Grandma, I need you. I love you. I need you, Grandma. I was just thinking, I was saying, my baby say, he need me. He need me. He love me. And I got to get back to him.
So get back to him she did, and the rest of her family too.
Why do you think your mom healed? Why do you think she's sitting with you?
God, prayers, and her fight for life.
You keep speaking about God, and we were trying to figure out, well, what could we give you? We didn't really know what to give you because you're so amazing. And then we thought, like, what about a song? And what about a song that speaks to you in the way you've just been speaking to us? And then we thought, who could that person be? Who would be good to serenade these beautiful ladies? And then we thought, how about a hunky guy named Blake Shelton?
I'm available if that's cool with you guys. Hi, Bridget. I see you.
Turns out a little Blake Shelton was just what the doctor ordered.
Everything about this disease. I mean, you guys are out on the front lines fighting it, and now you're a survivor of it, and you got each other, and that's really what this is all about. Literally, a light shining bright on that screen right there. It's awesome to meet both of you guys. I wanted to play just a little bit of a song here for you because the whole time I heard you guys talking and you keep throwing it back to God, and I love hearing you say that. So I want to dedicate this song from me to you guys as nurses and being out there on the front lines. But it really, I think this song really speaks to your relationship with each other, if you ask me.
God gave me you for the ups and downs. God gave me you for the days of down. For when I think I lost my way, there are no words here left to say it's true. God gave me you.
And with the team that helped save Bridget watching along, their cheers of support echoing wall to wall.
That's for you guys.
Thank you.
All right, a FedEx delivery driver in Florida found out that
Okay, so Now that was sweet. I'm gonna be honest with you. You know, had kind of had the allergies kick in a little bit. Let's be honest. I had my I'm not ashamed to say it. I had my allergies kick in a little bit on that one. I'm not ashamed to sit there and say it. Yeah, I can cry. So what? Fight me. But no, I like the fact that the fact that they did a story about this person and that she did overcome and things of that nature. The one thing I did take away from that video, I think Blake Shelton has been invited to the cookout. I mean, I guess because he's been on The Voice, he's had multiple hits. The guy. I actually got to meet him by accident here in Nashville one time, and I say by accident because I didn't know who the fuck he was in the elevator. But overall, it just seemed like a feel good story. It was just one of those things. Like I said, we can finally say someone did survive and they're thriving and things like that. And plus, it's a nurse too, which tells me they're just gonna turn around and go right back out in the front fields, which again is my respect to them. But the last story I do have, guys. Guys, if you are thinking about proposing to your wife, do not show her this video that I'm about to show you. That's all I'm going to sit there and say.
Crenshaw and his wife, Ramey, were planning to renew their wedding vows this fall, but then she had to go to the hospital. She was there a week with coronavirus. Lionel decided he couldn't wait any longer to show Ramey how much she means to him. So there he was, waiting with a ring as soon as she was wheeled out of intensive care. There he is.
I love you. Bye.
Yay! Oh. Lionel got down on that knee, proposed to his wife all over again, and the best part, they got to share a hug for the first time since she was admitted to the hospital.
Oh.
Two good boosts.
The sweet one.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
So that alone right there, which again is a feel good story for me because not only did she beat the coronavirus, her man, I guess her husband wanted to renew their vows, and so he decided to go ahead and get on one knee and pretty much propose to her right then and there. Fellas, if you're gonna propose to your fiance or renewing your vows, don't let your wife don't let your significant other watch that video. You want to know why? It'll take away every excuse you ever have of not doing it. Because she gonna sit there, because you know why? She gonna sit there and be like, you see him right there? He sat there and renewed his vows in front of his wife as she's coming out of the ICU. What's your excuse, Harold? And it's like, I kind of feel bad because I was like, I liked it because you know that the whole thing of in sickness and in health, yeah, that part, you know, dearly beloved, as we're gathered here on this day to celebrate the union of these wonderful two souls. I will ask you, do you take her hand in good times and bad, in sickness and in health, to death do you part? I know that's not the exact words, but hey, it's been a while. I'm an oldest kid. It's been a while since I heard the words, but I like the fact of the matter is just that he sat there and said, this man ain't waiting. I'm going to go ahead and we're going to redo all this over again. We're going to renew our vows, and damn it, I'm going to make it. And again, I can't blame him because coronavirus has taken lives, and when your loved one is taken and thought to be taken and she comes back and survives it, hell, I would be proposing my girl all over again in the emergency room too. She might slap me upside the head just because, you know, her nails ain't done and her hair ain't right, and I got her on video when she's not ready to be seen. She might want to knock me upside the head talking about, you couldn't give me time to prepare, you couldn't give me time to get my nails and stuff right, you couldn't give me time to do all this. You know, she might say it in her head, she won't say it out loud, but then again, I digress. But anyway, that's all that we have here for How the Frack We Got Here, guys. I do thank everybody's watching. I cannot say thank you enough to those who have liked, watched, shared, subscribed to Start to Watch Parties, who have been to the Facebook page for How the Frack We Got Here and started to like it and share their friends, and to those that went to the YouTube page and started becoming subscribers. I just want to say thank you to that as well. Now, before I do get out of here, I do want to say first and foremost, thank you all 911 responders. Thank you all doctors, nurses' aides, doctors' aides, orderlies, environmental service workers, workers in grocery food stores, Amazon, UPS, FedEx, DHL, United States Postal Services, basically everybody who has to go in when everybody else can, everybody who is forced to go in because they're deemed essential and are literally putting their lives on line to basically keep America running, and that also includes truckers. Thank you guys, because you are not getting enough. It's like it's almost as if you really should be getting a lot more than just thank you. I mean, trust me, if I had the ability to wipe out student loans, I would delete that bitch tonight. But again, we've done all that we can do there. But again, let me get out to this because I do have some shameless plugs to get out the way. I am not the only cat that actually has a podcast. I'll start with my brother, Big BZA Dot, who's actually somewhere in this, if he's not somewhere watching or probably somewhere posting. Start with Vaughn, Big BZA Dot on Facebook, Big BZA Dot podcast on YouTube, and Big BZA Dot on Twitch. Has a couple of shows of his own. The first one is the VSTs, or Busy Solo Takes, in which he goes over pretty much things of that nature because he considers himself a big ass kid. So he goes over music, video games, other things that might tickle his fancy, the strangest movie trailers I've ever seen, but he has an act for that. Interactive show just like mine. He also has Rhythmness, where you can reminisce over the rhythm, in which he goes over the albums of the past and the present and grades to a 4-tier rating system. If you want to know what that is, you have to watch Rhythmness to find out. And also, he has Random as Fuck with Uncle VZ. What is Random as Fuck? Random as Fuck is a pool of ratchets we sometimes dip our toes into to take a break from life and have a chuckle. Some bills make you think, some bills make you cry, some videos will stick with you until the test of time. I know, I have a few of them still stuck in my head. But all of his shows can be found under his Facebook page at BigBZA, his YouTube page, BigBZA.podcast, and his Twitch channel at BigBZA, and on Instagram at BigBZA. He is actually going across every social media channel there is. I'll also start with Thomas Reed, aka Mountain Puncher, in which we hope there will be a to be determined podcast very soon. If you know Thomas Reed on Facebook, he is a physical fitness junkie. He's probably jonesing right now and probably doing chin-ups on a street light as we speak. But in his to be determined podcast, he loves talking about fitness, workouts, nutrition, things of that nature, his own personal testimony of when it comes back to the gym, if we ever get there. But his show is usually from 3 to 5 under his Facebook page at Thomas Reed, and also his YouTube page is number 2, letter T, letter B, letter D. That's 2TBD. Why? Because we're trying to beat YouTube's algorithm. That's why. Aside from that, my brother Trace Brown, King Eddie Wayne on Facebook, DJ King Eddie Wayne on YouTube, and DJ King Eddie Wayne on Twitch, has a couple podcasts of his own. The first one is called The Bump Down, which is music, culture, knowledge, and numbers, in which he goes over everything about the music industry, chart sales, things of that nature, and also gives his opinion on the music recording industry. I call him Negro Damas just because everybody he has said is going to blow up actually did. He called Meg Thee Stallion, he called Moneybagg Yo, he called The Baby, Little Baby. Apparently it's popular to have a baby term now these days in hip-hop. But basically it's an interactive show just like mine. His other show is called The Smoke of Truth, in which it is, I call it check your rig at the door, no frills, because I said before, Trace is probably one of the most unorthodox individuals I've ever met, but he has such a unique perspective that I believe if people are willing to listen to him, then dagnabbit, he's willing to talk to you, because Trace always wants all the smoke. All of his shows can be found on his Facebook page at King Eddie Wayne, his YouTube page is DJ King Eddie Wayne, and also his Twitch channel DJ King Eddie Wayne. As for myself, of course, How the Frack We Got Here podcast every Saturday from 10 a.m. to noon. Of course, a little bit later on tonight, between 8 to 10 p.m. will be the Off Limits podcast, which will have a very interesting topic for all those who are parents. I'm going to leave it at that. Because the Off Limits podcast is a podcast that goes there being that we are willing to talk about any and all subjects. Nothing is off limits in order to have productive civil conversations. Of course, on Sunday between 5 to 7 will be the Get Bit podcast, where I like to call it my Blurred podcast, in which you go over video games, music, trailers, anime, things of that nature, including sports and wrestling. Why wrestling? Because it's still real to us, damn it. But again, that's going to be Sunday. And of course, Tuesday, the new bouncing baby addition to all of my podcasts, the Burned Out podcast, the stories of an IT technicians dealing with society. And trust me, I do have plenty of them, in which I go over stories from my actual experiences IT. As you heard people say, they call me tech support through this Table of Bosses podcast group. As I do talk about those stories that, you know, it's almost like Ripley's Believe It or Not, except that I've been there. And if you probably work beside me, like Alex and John, which, hi guys, if you're still watching, Alex and John can probably relate to most of these stories that I tell, just because they were there for some of them. So, with that being said, all of my shows can be found under my Facebook page at William Buchanan. I've been told it's very easy to find me. Or you can actually go to any of the Facebook pages where the shows have where all my shows, because all my shows do have Facebook pages. So if you do look up How the Frack We Got Here, If you do look up The Office Podcast, if you look up Get Bit, that is GITBIT, and of course, if you look up the Burned Out Podcast, all of them have Facebook pages to where you can also see my videos there. And of course, on YouTube, if you look up How the Frack We Got Here, The Office Podcast, Get Bit, and the Burned Out Podcast, you'll be able to see all the videos there and full uncensored content, especially with YouTube. Well, not uncensored because, uncensored as far as language, not like I'm going to show anything because that'd be weird. But anyway, that's where you can find all my shows. Please like, share, and subscribe. And like I said, at the end of every one of my shows, if you like what I did, please let me know. If you didn't like what I did, please let me know. I am open to criticism as I'm trying to make this platform better and enjoyable for all those to see. And if there are stories that I didn't catch or stories that you want to be researched or areas that, you think they need more investigation, please feel free to reach out to me on Facebook and I'll do my best to actually see about finding that stuff out, because the whole idea of this podcast is literally about staying informed. Staying informed means that you're not accepting everything at face value. You are literally going in and finding out for the truth for yourself and basically backing it up with reputable sources, only to turn around and bring somebody that and inform them of all the facts, not to persuade them, not to change their minds, but to give them the ability to absorb all the information and make a decision for their damn selves. That's the whole idea, because an informed community can make a lot better decisions than an uninformed one, because an uninformed one got us Dorito, and that's how the frack we got here. But that's going to be it, guys. Again, thank you for all watching, and of course, be safe this Saturday. If you have to go out, understand. If you don't have to go out, please stay at home. If you need to go outside, go outside. If you're in Tennessee, it's sunny right now. But if you're up north, you might want to stay inside. It's kind of cold. But I'm just saying, be safe, be cautious, be proactive, be protective, and we're all eventually going to get through this. But aside from that, guys, thank you all for watching. If you're watching this here on the playback, please go ahead and comment as if I'm here, because I still want to go back and see everybody's comments. But again, thank you all for watching. Hope you have a wonderful weekend. We're going to get through this. Stay safe. I'm out.